Leadership in Agile teams looks very different from traditional leadership. It is not just about being in charge or having authority. It's about creating the right conditions for the team to perform. In fact, in modern Agile and hybrid environments, leadership is better understood as a shared system than a single role. And nowhere is this more evident than in the way Agile coaches work. This clip explores the concept known as enabling leadership. We'll use the example of Spotify's Agile coaches as a practical case to bring this to life. Let's begin with a broader view. In Agile organizations, leadership isn't a one-size-fits-all function. Complexity leadership theory, often called CLT, gives us a useful framework. It describes three interconnected forms of leadership. Operational leadership, which focuses on structure, coordination, and execution. Entrepreneurial leadership, which drives exploration, experimentation, and innovation. And enabling leadership, the often overlooked but crucial role that links the two, making sure that innovation connects back to the organization and that structure doesn't kill creativity. Enabling leadership is what allows formal authority and informal emergence to coexist. It creates the space where innovation can happen while keeping that innovation connected to purpose, standards, and strategy. So, what does enabling leadership look like in practice? Spotify offers a compelling answer. In their widely known Agile model, teams, called squads, are guided by product owners who provide direction and are supported by Agile coaches who help the team to grow and perform. These coaches don't have a formal authority. They don't manage people or tell teams what to do. Instead, they act as facilitators, mentors, and context shapers. Their job is to enable the team's success, not to direct it. This is enabling leadership in action. Enabling leaders, like Spotify's Agile coaches, focus on creating what CLT calls adaptive space. This is a social environment where teams can experiment, reflect, and self-organize. It's not chaos. It's not control. It's a space of high trust, open communication, and constructive tensions, where learning and innovation can happen. Spotify coaches don't enforce rules. Instead, they offer a light touch guidance, simple principles like focus on value or bias for action. These aren't rigid rules. They are flexible heuristics that help teams make decisions autonomously while staying aligned with the company goals. By reinforcing a few clear ideas instead of many strict processes, coaches create what researchers call semi-structure, enough direction to prevent chaos, but enough freedom for creativity to flourish. Another key practice is sensing and adjusting. Coaches at Spotify are highly present with their teams. They observe how people interact, how decisions are made, who's engaged and who is not. They notice patterns like recurring miscommunications or when only a few voices are heard in retrospectives. When something's off, they intervene, not to fix the problem directly, but to help the team see it and solve it. For example, if two team members disagree but aren't addressing it, the coach might ask each one to explain their thinking in a meeting. This brings the tension into the open, but in a safe way. This is not about control, it is about enabling teams to own and solve their challenges. Coaches also support formal leaders. Rather than replacing the product owner, they act as partners. They might help a product owner prioritize a backlog in a more collaborative way, or coach a manager on how to give feedback without damaging the morale. At Spotify, this kind of leadership is seen as a multiplier. Coaches don't just guide teams, they help others become better leaders too. One coach described this as being a leader of leaders. They don't need a title to lead. Their influence comes from enabling others to succeed. Crucially, enabling leaders increase context awareness. They help team members understand the bigger picture. A coach might ask, who else needs to know about this change? Or What impact will this decision have on the end user? These questions shift the team's perspective from local optimization to system-level thinking. And that's one of the biggest value enabling leaders should bring. They connect the dots between teams, between ideas, between the present and the future. One of the most powerful things an enabling leader does is help a team to build the habit of constructive dialogue. When teams learn to surface issues early, talk about them openly, and find solutions together, they become more resilient, more self-sufficient, and more adaptive. And that's the goal. Spotify coaches don't aim to make them indispensable. Quite the opposite. A great outcome is when a team can run an effective retrospective without the coach, because they have internalized the norms of reflection and open communication. So, what can we learn from this? Whether or not you have a formal title like Agile Coach, enabling leadership is a mindset, and anyone can practice it. It's especially relevant in agile and hybrid project environments, where leaders must wear multiple hats. One moment you might be acting as an operational leader, clarifying deadlines or aligning stakeholders. The next moment you shift to enabling mode, facilitating a team discussion or creating space for a new idea. And perhaps, later in the day, someone on your team takes the lead of a new prototype, and that's entrepreneurial leadership in action. Agility isn't about replacing the leadership style with another. It's about knowing when and how to use each one. And enabling leadership is the connective tissue that lets all of this happen. To close, think of leadership in your team not as a hierarchy, but as an ecosystem. An ecosystem where different leadership energies flow in, out, and across the roles. In that system, enabling leaders are like gardeners. They do not control how the plant grows, but they nurture the soil, manage the sunlight, and clear the weeds so growth becomes possible. At Spotify, enabling leadership is what helps turn squads into self-sustaining, high-performing teams. It's what creates the balance between autonomy and alignment. And it's what makes agility more than just a method, it makes it a culture. So, whether you're a coach, a project manager, or just someone who wants to help their team to do better, remember this: enabling others is one of the most powerful forms of leadership you can practice.